David Wheeler was a gentleman, a family man, a community man. He was the kind of leader who graces our lives maybe once in a century. Dave was involved in virtually every worthwhile community project in Baker City, Oregon. He was devoted first of all to his family, his wife Christy, his daughter Melissa, and his son Jace. They were his life, his greatest love. He sang in the Baker City Community Choir. He spent countless hours as a volunteer for the Baker City YMCA, where his wife Christy was director. He was deeply involved in the United Methodist Church. His pastor, the Reverend Karen Slota, had the very highest praise for Dave.
Dave was a man of the people. We shared him with the whole community. Everybody wanted a little chunk of him.
He sang in his church choir and taught a high school Sunday school class. He was president of the United Methodist Men and on the church's administrative council. And he was the liaison between his church and its Boy Scout troop. He was its family life coordinator and headed the planning of numerous church family social events. And he was instrumental in organizing an ecumenical youth group in Baker City. In the words of another close friend, nothing good happened in Baker City that Dave Wheeler wasn't part of. And he was a director and president-elect of the Baker City Rotary Club, scheduled to take office as president in July 1995. Dave worked as a bridge engineer for the U.S. Forest Service in Baker City, Oregon. On April 26, 1995, he was inspecting a bridge on a Forest Service road near Weiser, Idaho. Two teenage boys approached him and asked him for a drink of water. He said, "Yes, you can have all you want." Dave had no way of knowing that the boys were runaways from a juvenile detention center. As he turned to his pickup to get his canteen, one of them, for reasons we may never know, put a pistol to Dave's head and pulled the trigger. Dave Wheeler's death stunned all of Oregon. Never in memory had so senseless a tragedy struck so deeply. The town of Baker City pulled together immediately to give what comfort they could to Christy and their children. But there is simply no way they or anyone else could explain or rationalize this terrible loss. Somehow, over the next few months, the Wheeler family and the people of Baker City and its neighboring communities of Northeast Oregon began to find their own ways to deal with their loss. Citizens and family friends felt the need to make major changes in their community in order to recognize the monumental contributions Dave had made in so many ways. One of these was to rename the existing federal office building as the David J. Wheeler Federal Building. Dave's high school Sunday school class planted a special tree on the church grounds to honor his life and work. And there were other, less visible manifestations of our collective sense of loss. But Dave Wheeler's Rotary family needed a way to deal with their loss as well. The three clubs of Northeast Oregon, Wallowa County, La Grande, and Dave's own club, Baker City, looked for a way to build a memorial that would be eminently fitting and practical, a way that would serve a purpose beyond being simply a memorial. They looked within their clubs for a way to express their love and found nothing that was both appropriate and feasible. And then a realization struck. They suddenly understood that it was not only Baker City's loss, but all of Eastern Oregon's, indeed all of the Pacific Northwest's loss. There needed to be a way to accomplish a major project in Dave Wheeler's name, a project that would serve in a way Dave would have served generations to come. The answer came in a lightning bolt. It was a stunning combination of all of these elements, and we need to back up a few months to see how it came about. In the car returning home following Dave's attendance at the Northwest Rotary President-Elect's Training Seminar in March of 1995, Baker City President-elect Dave Wheeler suggested to Presidents-elect Dick Stannard of the LeGrand Club and Diane Heiberger of the Wallowa County Club that he would like to see those three clubs pool their resources in a joint project during their terms as president. They touched on several possibilities for a few minutes, and then the conversation turned to other things. But the seed had been planted. After Dave's tragic death, half a dozen members of the three clubs gathered in LeGrand to discuss how the clubs could build a practical and fitting memorial. Diane and Dick recalled Dave's suggestion in the car coming home from Pets, and realized this was the opportunity to bring to reality that project Dave Wheeler had dreamed of. But what to do? Think now. Dave Wheeler had been a bridge engineer. Where was a bridge needed that would serve his family and friends? It was Ralph Swinehart, a civil engineer and member of the Wallowa County Rotary Club, who had the final, incredibly appropriate answer. Camp Wallowa is a beautiful Boy Scout camp, less than a mile up the scenic Wallowa River from majestic Wallowa Lake in northeast Oregon. For years, scouts and visitors had used a narrow, winding back road to reach the camp from the main thoroughfare. Once at the camp, there was parking space just across the Wallowa River, which bordered the camp buildings, but there was no way for foot traffic to cross the river there. Ralph said simply, "Let's build a bridge at the scout camp." With a breathtaking rush of inspiration, the club directors realized that a footbridge across the Wallowa River at the camp was not just a way to remember Dave Wheeler, it was quite simply the way. And so they brought the idea to the directors of the LeGrand Rotary Club and the Wallowa County Rotary Club in Enterprise, the club whose territory included the scout camp. These leaders also realized that a bridge over the Wallowa River was without question the way to memorialize Dave Wheeler's life. The three clubs, under the leadership of Baker City Rotary Club President Nick Mausen, LeGrand President Dick Stannard, and Wallowa County President Diane Heiberger, established a planning committee, meeting usually in LeGrand as the most central location. They established some goals and decided to publish their project to all of Rotary District 5100 so that other Rotarians could participate if they wished. As of November 30th, 1996, a total of 24 clubs and individual Rotarians had sent in $12,635, with club donations ranging from $100 to $2,500. The Boy Scouts of America, grateful for the gift, added another $2,500. Ralph Swinehart was chosen to design and draw up blueprints for the bridge. Charlie Kissinger, superintendent of Camp Wallowa, acted as on-site coordinator for construction progress. When the planning committee made known the project to industries of Northeast Oregon, many responded with outright donations or donations at cost. S&R Industries provided metal fabrication and painting. Bill Martin donated freight costs. Bronze memorial plaques for each end of the bridge were donated anonymously. All this at no cost. In February of 1996, Ralph set stakes on each side of the Wallowa River, marking where the footings would be placed for each end. Materials were ordered, and later, in the early spring, half a dozen workdays were scheduled over the summer. Each of the three Northeast Oregon Rotary Clubs would send a handful of workers for each of these workdays. With professional engineers and construction people supervising, club members provided the labor to level out the footings and set the reinforcing rods for the concrete. District Governor Phil Spurl came over from Salem to lend a hand. They dug holes. They tugged on lines to position the huge towers. They hauled heavy timbers 100 yards to the site. They bent reinforcing rod for the concrete anchors. The construction progress was documented on film by noted nature photographer and district judge Rotarian Eric Valentine, and on videotape by several other Rotarians. The bridge took shape rapidly. Once the anchors were set, the towers went up, and Ralph aligned them precisely with each other. The concrete was poured, and when it was set, the cables began to be strung across the river. newly installed District Governor Denny Jones made a special trip over to be present on an August workday, and we are indebted to him for some of the excellent video shots in this production. The stairs went in, and then the decking reached out from opposite banks to meet over the river. Finally, the safety cables were strung, and the David J. Wheeler Memorial Bridge was a reality. On November 26, 1996, a brief but inspiring dedication ceremony took place at the east foot of the bridge. Nick Mausen, president of the Baker City Rotary Club, led the dedication in a sensitive and compassionate manner. He spoke briefly of so many who had contributed to the project. And then Christy Wheeler stunned us all with a spontaneous outpouring of her thanks for remembering her husband in such a fitting way.
I know I'm not on your program because I'm not sure. When it was being planned, I felt like I had the strength to stand here today and speak to you, but I can. My name is Christy Wheeler. I'm Dave Wheeler's wife. 18 months ago, this very day, Dave Wheeler was standing beside another bridge, a bridge on the Payette National Forest, where he was temporarily assigned to inspect bridges. Most of you probably know that two young people came down the road and asked him for a drink of water. And there probably wouldn't be anybody that you'd want to find on a forest that would help you more than a person like David Wheeler. David's last words were, "Yes, and you can have all you want." And I think his last words were pretty indicative of the generosity that he demonstrated throughout his life. Someone just thanked us for allowing the organizations involved to dedicate this bridge to David and said, "We don't know you well." And many of those that were named and being thanked for this project, I don't know well. But we do want to take this time to say again how appreciative we are of the way you've chosen to honor David. And thanks for your presence today.
One might think that such a structure of wood and steel would be cold and lifeless. But when you set foot upon this bridge, you know instantly that it is alive. It trembles and vibrates at every step with a vitality that echoes David Wheeler's very life. And that is exactly as it should be. In so many ways, it was indeed a bridge too soon, in the sense that it took losing one of our most beloved friends to inspire us to build this bridge. It was decades too soon. And you should know something else. Christy Wheeler has taught us and the world a lesson in compassion that establishes her as a lady of the very greatest nobility. For following the hearing at which the two boys who killed her husband were sentenced, she walked up to them and quietly gave each boy his own personal copy of the Holy Bible. At the dedication, one of Dave's clubmates looked proudly at the bridge, and then, with the tears flowing freely down his face, said simply, "I'd rather have him back." We all would. It is truly a beautiful bridge, and it will serve scouts and visitors to the Pacific Northwest for centuries. It is a bridge of which Dave Wheeler would be proud. But for all who love Dave Wheeler, it is a bridge too soon. We'd rather have him back.